Hey kiddos, it's your dad here. So I wanted to talk about how everything that you're probably listening to is a lie in order to sell you something. Even your favorite creators and mentors might be just projecting their own fears onto you, and maybe not out of any bad will, but because that's all that they can do. And you might be building a life based on somebody else's agenda. So this is the final part of this little mini series on finding your purpose through alignment. And we've covered things like how to follow your interest, uncovering your values, letting your purpose emerge rather than manufacturing it, and also releasing expectations. And then this final one is about truth. So we'll look at how the outside influence can distort your inside, your internal compass, and how you can go about reclaiming it. So the first is the influence trap. We live in a world where advice is monetized. Most people are selling ideas wrapped in fear. You're not enough. You're falling behind. You need this to succeed. But when somebody's livelihood depends on your belief in their solution, there's an inherent conflict of interest. And I know because I was that influencer. I was selling an Airbnb program. Uh, we were selling property management and real estate investments. Um, so I used to sell courses and build a business tied to the same pressure. I told myself that it was to help others, but underneath it was also fear. The fear of not being enough, the fear of not having enough. And it wasn't until I reached financial independence through the real estate that we purchased, some online business income, moving to Colombia, a lower cost country, that I was finally in a place where I could reflect. And this was also after I stopped hopping from interest to interest and finally reflected on my values. Um, you know, I was trying to sell this idea that you can achieve financial independence and live, earn more money and do these things through just Airbnb. And I would say how all these other things are just not as good as this, and I believe that. And I'm not saying that I was being disingenuous, but there is a conflict of interest there when you're selling something that is tied to your livelihood, your income. And it became a real problem for me when I recognized I don't really care about Airbnb itself. I enjoy the business aspect, so I tried to distance myself and say, I don't really care about the operations. I care more about the online marketing and sales, which is true. Um, and I don't want to go into the justifications of it's like we had students that succeeded and I was selling something, but we were also struggling with like the property management business, and it wasn't making as much as the education business, and there was conflict of integrity there. Um, and then when we eventually stopped, I felt more relief about that. Um, and not that other people haven't succeeded, not that we didn't technically succeed. We were just, you know, and it's very easy to rationalize. It's very easy to rationalize why you're doing something because most people are just operating out of fear. I was operating out of fear. What started as an interest became something that is, well, I need to sell because this is how we grow. This is how I achieve my goals. This is tied to my identity. My identity is as a successful entrepreneur, a person that scales, a person that sells, a person that is the expert. And that, being on that side, I know firsthand um, what most people are going through when it comes to, the online business space. And it doesn't even have to be direct sales. It could be an idea, an agenda. You see this in politics. You see this in lifestyle influencers. I mean, you can argue that even these videos, I'm technically selling you an idea. I'm selling you the idea of how to live more in alignment. I'm saying don't listen to these other things, listen to this thing. Where it becomes less of a conflict of interest is when there's nothing tied to that. This video could get 0 views. Maybe one day you'll watch it. But I'm not, because I'm not selling anything. There is no conflict of interest. There's a funny guy, Alex Ramosi. I'll just kind of throw Alex Ramosi under the bus. He always says, "I've got nothing to sell you." Like that was his motto. I'm making these videos. I've got nothing to sell you. A little bit of a conflict of interest there. A little bit of a conflict of interest there because he is selling you a lifestyle and an idea, and this is probably going to be outdated by the time you're watching this, but this is a very popular, relevant influencer at this time in the business space. It sells an idea of what being an entrepreneur is and a successful business owner, and his goal is to grow his portfolio of companies. He wants people that are very driven, motivated, disciplined, and growing their businesses that want to sell a portion of their business to him so he can generate revenue through his basically being a acquisition company. The name of his company is called acquisition.com. He's an acquisition company and he's making these videos to funnel into eventually his business. And if it helps people grow, great. Nothing wrong with that. But there is a conflict of interest. And again, it's not necessarily that a conflict of interest is bad, because I can create just for the sake of creating, and I can also monetize. But it becomes a problem when you tie your self-worth to an identity. Let's say being a successful business owner, being a successful entrepreneur, having $1 billion of assets under management. Maybe like Alex Ramosi, be have $100 billion or $1 billion of companies that are generating revenue. And if you tie your self-worth to that identity out of fear that you're not enough if you don't achieve that there's other people that are doing more than you, then what you're selling can also become a conflict of interest. So, for example, I plan on making videos about trading. I don't plan on tying my identity to my success as a trader. I don't plan on tying my my identity to how much I am making through my YouTube channel. I just want to create because I enjoy creating. Like, I enjoy making these videos. I enjoy sharing things that I learn. If I can monetize it, sure. But that also comes back to what is the reason why you're doing the thing? Are you is is the person that you're listening to, is that does their business, does their income and everything rely on your attention? And that's why I really enjoy trading, is because it doesn't matter how many views my video makes, or how much some sales are doing online. It's just because I want to. um, it's just because I want to. But when it becomes the reverse, and you don't have a business that is just for the sake of, let's say, generating income from trading, and it becomes how many sales are you making, that's where a lot of the conflict comes up. As a lifestyle influencer, how many views can you get in order to promote products, for example? So there's a subtle lie that we tell ourselves. We might say, I'm doing this for my family. But is that love, or is that fear disguised as love? So I could say, well, I'm creating this content, or I'm selling these things for my family because I value family. I saw this a lot in the real estate space. I would see a lot of guys who would say, family is the number one priority. God, family are the two top priorities. Everything else comes after. But then you look at their life. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of noise in the background. But then you look at their life, and they spend all their time working. They're always hustling. They're always grinding. They're always posting. They're always on. They're always at a conference. They're always doing something. Um, you know, are they doing? Are they really doing it for their family, or are they just afraid of not not living up to the identity that they convince themselves, and they justify their actions as something else? Even the values like independence or purpose can be hijacked by insecurity. I've said, I'm working overtime for them. I'm working overtime for my family. I'm scaling so we have freedom, more independence. But was I truly present with my family? Or was I just proving that that I deserved that I deserved to achieve this result? That I was putting an expectation of pressure on myself. So why does financial freedom matter? One of my core values is independence. Financial freedom gave me the space to be able to pause, reflect, and create without pressure. Do I still want more money? Yeah. But now I can notice when that desire starts stretching my values beyond what I'm comfortable with. I can say, now, we're okay, but I don't need to sell my soul just to scale. So this is reclaiming your inner compass. Influence is just external, and it changes with your internal dialogue. What do I mean by that? The things that you listen to influence how you think, how you behave, your lifestyle. So what you listen to, what you input, changes how you communicate with yourself. Which is why, if you're overwhelmed, or if you're listening to a lot of news and you're putting in a lot of garbage in, garbage out. That's the way that it works. I like to use this analogy of the life tree. You have a river, the river of influence, the things that come into your life that are affecting the different parts of your life tree. Um, and if you have bad bad influences in that river that are bringing life to your tree, you're going to have an unhealthy tree. You Most people, they twist their mind to match their beliefs. So they're never really choosing. That's why, I like to say, one of these quotes is, the greatest lie is the lie that you repeat to yourself. The greatest lie is the lie that you tell to yourself. Because one day you might just look up and realize, this life that I'm building, it doesn't even feel like mine. Because it isn't. Because you've just been listening to other things, other influences in your life that make you believe that this is a life that you're supposed to be living. That's why I say, the Matrix is still the Matrix. Everybody's saying you need to get out of the Matrix. But what they don't tell you is that even just trying to escape the Matrix is still the Matrix. You're stuck. It's like you're in a box, and then when you open the box, you're just in a bigger box. You're trapped in a cage until you realize it's just a bigger cage. And that's because somebody else is telling you this is what you should do, and their livelihood is based on generating fear because they're afraid. So how I've been practicing this in my life now is creating without needing. So like I said, I'm creating these videos for my kids, for you guys. It's not to go viral, not to make sales. It's because this is something that I just want to leave behind. If I got hit by a bus today, I'd be dead, but I would, if I was hit by the bus and I didn't die right away, I'd be saying, but I knew I was gonna die, I'd be saying, dang, I really wish that I made these videos for my kids, sharing some of the lessons that I've experienced that I feel are important for them, that they may experience as well. So that's why I'm creating this. If I earn something through this, great. Um, you know, if I earn something through this, great. But it's because I want to, and not because I feel like I have to. And I don't want it to become to that. Because I know what that feels like, to just keep doing something even if it doesn't feel good. And that goes against my values. So if so, ask yourself: is what you're creating out of love or out of fear? And by asking that question is how you protect your values. So most people don't realize that they're just selling themselves a lie. Most people are living in a lie, in denial, because that's what they're also being fed. Other people that are lying, that are also in denial. But if you pause, reflect, and then realign your life, you can live by your own truth. And that's what this whole series is about. is discovering your truth. We talked about in the first video, if you're feeling lost, how to get some direction. In the second video, we talked about how the reason why you might be getting stuck in this loop of getting lost and finding a direction and doing that multiple times is because you're not doing things from a place of values. In the third video, we talked about what did we even talk about? It's been a long day. I've been recording videos all day, so I'm a little bit tired. In the third video, we talked about finding your true purpose by listening to the calling in your life, not trying to manufacture purpose, but by allowing your purpose to come out through curiosity and stillness. In the fourth video, we talked about succeeding by not forcing success, and how expectations is ultimately what leads to suffering. And once you've learned to let go is when you've truly won. And this final video is about how the lie that everybody is living and how you can live in your truth. Because if you've convinced yourself of a lie which makes you choose, and it goes back to the first video, part 1. If you believe a lie because you're listening to things from other people and then you choose something, like everything that I chose before was because I was listening to other people. I got into mobile home investing because I was listening to this guy John Fedro on Bigger Pockets. I got into crypto because I think it was an interview with John Fedro and some other guy who was talking about Bitcoin at the time, so I got into Bitcoin, and I was listening to all of these people all the time, and that was influencing me to be curious and to go after these specific things. And if you believe that lie from the influences that you're putting into your life, it can keep you in this cycle where you never really know what your values are, so you keep on doing new things, thinking that this is what you want, a value maybe that somebody else has, but it's not what you actually want. And if you don't recognize that and take a step and stop and say, what are my values? You'll just get stuck in this loop of never really growing in a healthy way that is aligned with who you are. You can't find your true purpose if you are constantly believing a lie that somebody else is telling you and that you've told yourself. And you can't achieve success if you're listening to what other people say is success, because they'll say, this is the expectation, this is where you should be. And if you're not here, then that's not success. So you'll never be happy if you listen and look at other people that way. So that's why even though this is the last video, it's probably the most important video because it all feeds into each other. The greatest lie you can tell is the lie that you repeat to yourself. So I hope this little video series helped you, and I hope I don't get hit by a bus. So we can maybe talk about this more when you get older.